Do you want to have fitness? You are going to keep health insurance? Are you going to be healthy enough to be able to quit working and be able to like keep doing what you want to do? And then finance, you have the money to be able to do those things. And so when you put all that together, it's like, boy, you've worked so hard for it, but you want to enjoy it at the end. I understand all that. It's just getting to that point is a very difficult thing for just me.
In reading some of these books, and they talk about, allocating buckets for different years for that. I think your dad's always said, well, we're just going to live on the interest. That's all we're going to take out, and just leave the bulk of the everything else there. I think we need a different word for retirement, and maybe that would help. I think there's maybe sometimes a negative connotation to it for some people like us that are like, no, we just work. That's what we do.
Enjoy retirement.
But
welcome, millionaires and future millionaires. You're listening to the Millionaires Unveiled podcast, a show where you'll hear the stories and interviews of everyday millionaires. We'll unveil their decisions, their strategies, and their portfolio allocation. Now to your host, Jace Mattinson.
Welcome back to another episode of the Millionaires Unveiled podcast. This is episode number 399. Stace, we've got a kind of a unique episode today. In fact, we're sitting here, we got a little round table. We got my parents reappearing. They're basically here to tell us that they're going to retire. Just kidding. But we are going to have a discussion about retirement. We've got a lot of listeners write in about this. We don't have a big enough representation of the baby boomer generation on the podcast. We have people saying these 30-year-olds that are millionaires, they're all going to lose it. It takes decades to make it. How are these 60-plus-year-olds actually transitioning from making money, working hard, to actually living a little bit and retiring? In fact, most of them aren't right now. Granted, there are some. There's several that are retiring daily, but on a large scale, what we see is fewer and fewer people working longer and longer and living longer too. So, and we keep getting requests for a little bit of an update, which it has been a couple years since we went on our own show. I think it was episode 161 back in the days with Clark. So we'll give a little update.
Well, let's kick off with a personal update. Jace, since our last update, that original episode, we did the $1 million holler with Clark. What's changed the most in our financial situation?
That's a tough question. It's probably the fact that we just have 5 kids now is the biggest thing that's rocked the financial situation. I'm still very much a proponent of the 3-legged stool. And so, continuing to put capital to work in business, in the market, and in real estate is still a high priority. I don't know that I feel, I don't know if it's as necessary as maybe I once thought to have a little bit more balance there. But what I will say, it's interesting. In fact, I want to read. I've got an acquaintance on LinkedIn that wrote a real interesting post recently about kind of just private business investments and kind of the returns that he's had. And basically, he compared in angel investing into investing in what he would have got in the S&P or in QQQ or Microsoft or Apple. And he got a check back recently. It's $10,000 angel investment he put in 2019. The check he got back was for $8,436. So a loss for all intents and purposes. He said on the same day, here's what I would have had if I invested in sure thing blue chip stocks or ETFs. S&P would have been more than double, $21,230. QQQ would have been $28,800. Microsoft would have been $34,480. Apple would have been $53,150. And then he goes on and he has all these investments, 20,000, 20,000, 25,000, 25,000, 38,000 that essentially are going to turn into all zeros. And then a whole nother chunk that he feels like he'll be lucky to get 25 to 50 cents back. 200 grand, 50 grand, 100 grand, 100 grand, 65 grand, several of those in multifamily kind of syndication deals. So basically he goes, hey, I just lost $643,000 in, various investments over the last several years are basically going to turn into zero or 25 to 50 cents on the dollar in his opinion. Had he put those in, those blue chip investments, S&P would have already doubled 1.3 million, QQQ would have been 1.8, Microsoft 2.2, Apple 3.4. And this goes to show something I think that's shifted in my mind a little bit, that sometimes think people, especially when they see home run, whether it's a private investment in a business or something else, turn into a 20 plus or 30 plus percent return. Doing that year over year is extremely difficult. And I've come to realize that putting money in so-called, the market or some of these other blue chip type companies is not the worst thing, even if it's outside of your retirement account. I used to not necessarily want to have quite as much exposure there. The other piece, though, is I also don't really love to make investments with other people at this point. Like, I feel like every single time that I've done that, it hasn't gone quite as well as I would have hoped, or the time horizon. Like, I invested some real estate deal like way back when, I don't even know how long ago now. And I'm just essentially writing that off as a loss at this point too. Whereas like I'm in the same boat as my acquaintance on LinkedIn where I could have quadrupled that money because I put that in there like 2016, maybe 2015. I don't know. It's been a long time. And yeah, so I think that's that shift a little bit of like being able to maintain control, but also have like a nice liquidity base is really important. I started tracking liquidity to net worth a lot closer since probably we went on for that episode the first time. It's kind of one of the metrics I honestly look at like every single month. So what about you?
I'll start with what stayed the same. I think
That wasn't a question. Are we talking politics now? You don't answer the question that's asked at the camera, the microphone.
What stayed the same is that on a macro level, you've always kind of managed or steered the ship in terms of your vision for how we could, live a life in the future that we'd love to live if we can. Personally, though, things have changed over the last few years for me, which is that when I became pregnant with the twins, I stopped working. And I had continued to, I had progressively worked less as we had more kids. And then when I became pregnant with the twins, it felt like I think this might be unmanageable for me, especially because twin pregnancies are higher risk. And I didn't know what that was going to look like. And I kind of felt already sometimes overwhelmed with the 3 kids and having twins was, they were spontaneous twins. So this was a surprise. I mean, we were planning for a 4th. But 4 was always like the upper limit. Never in a million years I ever even consider 5 kids. So that's when I rolled off my biggest clients to colleagues that I knew would take great care of them. And anyway, so I've been full time with the kids, which I was always the primary caregiver, but I always worked as much as I could on the side. And anyway, so stepping away from that completely was good for me because I felt like I wasn't able to be the mom that I wanted to be. And I also knew that, you were doing most of the heavy lifting. It wasn't like my consulting work was like super tipping the needle from a financial perspective, but it's just something that's personally fulfilling. But then at that point, it was becoming more stressful than like a fun outlet because I only had so much finite time to dedicate to it. So that's been good for me because I feel like I've been a better like wife and mom. And I also want to take care of my clients the way that I would and could if I had like a lot more extra bandwidth. So that's been different since the previous update. But now I'm also in a different crisis, identity crisis, midlife crisis of like, okay, what does this look like going forward? Because at some point, the kids will all be in school. We already have, one in one in first grade. We've got 2 in preschool, a few days a week. And so what does this look like moving forward? Does it look like, okay, do I want to go back to nutrition consulting? How is that in terms of my like passion for it? Or is it just something that I like to do personally and help guide our own family? Is it that I'm going to help with our own personal investments that we have? And, is it something like, hey, I have more bandwidth that I can help us grow the MU platform the way that we want to? And also taking into consideration, you've worked very hard to have, whatever flexibility you can. And so when you're more flexible, you want me to be more flexible. And I remember times when I've got clients and you're like, hey, let's go do XYZ, and I'm like, I can't. I got clients, and you're like, well, cancel them, reschedule them, or cancel them. I'm not canceling a client because you want to go do something fun because you've got an hour here or there. So it's not just like a personal decision because it doesn't just impact me what I do going forward, because you also and we as a couple want to have some flexibility. So that's kind of a different midlife crisis of like, what does the next thing look like for me once kids are, more capable and don't need me quite as much. And when they are, going to school, and kind of maybe redefining that. But yeah.
You're like unretiring.
I'm unretiring.
Coming out of retirement.
Yeah, not quite, but I'm trying to think forward, think forward.
Awesome.
Let's see, on a macro level, I mean, I would say you certainly manage most of our big finances. I do a lot of like our family budgeting and typical family expenses. And I mean, notably eggs. I'm kidding.
I'm not. My daily egg turned into like once or twice a week now because it's like a luxury item that I can't afford every day anymore.
Eggs are top of mind. No, I mean, overall, just our family expenses obviously are much steeper than they used to be with 5 kids. I think we used to spend on groceries. I mean, I think we had 1 or 2 kids when we went on last time, but I remember when we first got married, I think we spent $120 a week on groceries, and that hardly covers like the middle of the week grocery run. That's not even the main grocery run. So, I mean, we've definitely escalated on expenses with our family growth. But at the same time, we've been in a much more comfortable position to be able to afford a lot of our family expenses easier. I mean, we've always talked about big budget items before we make those expenses, and that's something that even at this point is something we still do. I had to replace a double stroller. We weren't planning on having twins at the end. Obviously, I thought it was done with the whole baby gear. I think that new stroller was like $700 all in or something. So we still discuss big ticket items regardless of where we are on the spreadsheet, because I think that's just a habit or something that we value, right? Like we still don't frivolously like want to spend. So I would say anything like maybe $150 or less we don't always discuss, which is probably higher than it used to be, but any like for sure big ticket items we still discuss. And overall, I mean, it's I feel like we've been in a more comfortable place. It's been nice because we lived our life in such a way that we got a lot of questions the first few years we were married and first started having kids and trying to manage expenses. And now I feel like because we did that, now we get to live a little bit more comfortably, but we still don't spend frivolously or overspend just because, my daughter is different. Our oldest daughter is different from me in that like she loves gifts. Gifts are like her love language and they're not necessarily mine. And she always wants to buy things for people and people to buy things for her. And because that's kind of the opposite of what we built our financial foundation on, I'm always trying to persuade her to let's make something for them. Let's write them a card. But anyway, we still want to instill those habits of being frugal and not overspending.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, our next question, Jace. what's your current net worth and how's that allocated? Did I do that right?
Getting close. Yeah. So allocation and net worth, like I said, between business valuations, kind of all over the place, but it's for sure double, triple what it was a couple of years ago, maybe even a little more than that. But business, call it 37, 38%. Retirement accounts, 17 to 18%. Non-retirement, 2 to 3%. Real estate that is non-primary residence, about 22-ish percent. Primary residence is about just a little under 8, and then the remaining is in cash or liquid assets right now. Of the retirement account between Roth, traditional, and then I kind of include the HSA in that bucket as well. So I got about a 60-40 split between those, 60 in the Roth, 23-ish in the traditional, and then 17 in the HSA right now. So, and that, it's kind of funny. I look back actually when I started tracking this, kind of that mix, and that mix has held pretty steady, even with all the additions dating back to 2018 when I first started tracking this. I think the very first month I started tracking this, I guess gone up a little bit. Roth was at 51, traditional was at 28, HSA was at 21. So it hasn't drastically changed, but I also have maxed out the Roth and the HSA every single year, backdoor Roth, but have not maxed out the traditional IRA or 401k at my company every year. I've just kind of done the match in that regard. So I expect that to probably continue to have about that same mix. I guess that's another thing that's changed too. At one point, I thought maybe I'd kind of let the foot off the gas. I thought it maybe be when I hit 40, or when I got to a certain number, and then got there. No, I'm not 40 yet, but got to my number on the Roth, and I don't feel the need to like discontinue doing a backdoor Roth every year. I just keep doing it. So, there's a lot of other things I've learned with, asset protection in that regard and what those accounts provide in that sense, that maybe I didn't know a few years ago or didn't appreciate a few years ago. And so I'll probably just continue to fund those forever. I don't know that I'll ever stop it, but there was a point, 10 years ago when I started trying to do this and we got really aggressive, and that I thought maybe I would at some point kind of stop doing that.
Is there a reason why you don't max out the 401k option?
Yes and no. I mean, part of it is, plan designs at different companies. The other part of it is just utilizing, some of those funds to put in other places. But like, company's plan design is different at their company. And, we have some discrimination testing at our company, which I just basically couldn't, it's not an option to max it out anyway. So that's partly, the reason. But even if I did have it and we were in a safe harbor plan, which I have been in a safe harbor plan previously before too, but if I was still in that today, like I still probably wouldn't do it. It's just not, I feel like between the Roth, backdoor, HSA and everything else, like we're good. I'm good. I feel like that's enough. And then in terms of like what funds, I know some people have asked, like basically the main funds that I've been in are kind of your S&P 500 index, but I also have some VFIAX, FSRPX, FBSOX, FBIOX, FSCSX, FSRPX, VFINX. Those are kind of the main ones. I've got some also TRREX and PRGTX, some VGHCX, PRMTX, PRHSX as well. So those are kind of the main ones, along with the S&P 500 index. But a few of those funds I've also had for a few decade and a half or whatever now. So yeah.
Do you invest in any ETFs? One
half dozen the other. Yes and no. I mean, sure. Are there quote unquote labeled ETF? Yeah. But to me, it's just kind of, I know they're a little slight different, but for an index fund ETF, it's essentially all the same in my mind.
Do you want to explain at all how you like to structure utilizing your HSA? I keep saying it's ours, but.
Yeah. I mean, my strategy with the HSA is basically fund it and then invest it and just continue to let it grow. And then I just pay for medical out of pocket. Typically, have a low deductible plan, high deductible plan with lower premium. I feel like, every time I run the math every year, that's what makes the most sense. Luckily, knock on wood, granted, we did have 2 babies last year, but we don't have significant healthcare expenses. Been very blessed that way. And so it's made sense, I think, on our front to do that. And, we don't have a big RX bill either. So that's made sense. And my plan is just to continue to grow that. And at some point, that kind of can become another retirement account, whether it's used for healthcare and I don't have to pay any taxes on it. Awesome. If not, then it essentially will function like a traditional IRA, when I get to that age. I've been saving the receipts though, all along from the beginning, and track how much premium I pay, how much we pay out of pocket every year. And I may, mid 40s, 50, whatever, midlife crisis, cash those in and spend it on something, but we'll see.
Logistically, I'm the one who is taking everyone to the dentist, the doctor, whatnot. So I just take a picture of everything, email it to Jace. We keep it in a separate folder there. So that's how we keep that all organized. Our third question of the day for you, Jace, in the hot seat. Are there any new financial goals you're focusing on this year?
Obviously now with kids at their ages, like I'm still, I wanted to establish kind of education accounts for them and making sure those are funded. I still really like the ESAs, which you kind of have to get creative on how those get funded at certain income levels, but there's ways. And, 529s have come a long way as well. But I also, in the back of my head, I wonder, in 15 years or 10 years, like, what does secondary and advanced education look like? And, do these funds that we've set aside, I don't want them to become obsolete either. So there's got to be kind of a path forward that, if a child chooses not to go to school for whatever reason or wants to do something different, whether it's a trade school or maybe they just want to start a business and we're going to support that. Like, how do I think through that? So those are things that I'm taking into consideration as we do that. And then, just in general, asset protection, making sure that, it's crazy with, 5 kids now, like making sure that like everything's updated for every account, on the primary beneficiaries, secondary beneficiaries, going through all the insurances. Like, it just becomes actually quite an exercise every year to kind of go through. It takes me quite some time, more than I thought it would ever. And I could simplify that a little bit probably and consolidate funds, but it is what it is for now.
I think something that might be notable given the update, I think we hadn't had kids start kindergarten and up by the time, or by our previous update. And we had kind of considered before we started like kindergarten, okay, are we going to go public school, private school, charter school? And we kind of weighed some of those options. We were looking at some private schools we were interested in and realized they're like 14 grand, 14 grand a year, 14 to 20 grand a year, which 20 grand a year, that's more than we spent on my undergrad and master's degree. So realized, okay, well, even if we are in a comfortable spot, we definitely don't want to be spending that much money per year on every kid just for starting at kindergarten and up. At the time, I didn't really feel great about public school for my own personal reasons. So we landed on a charter school. We do a classical charter school that we really love. And we donate. Charter schools are free, but we donate pretty generously because we love it. But that's one way that we've managed costs, but also giving our kids an education that aligns with our values, and I really enjoyed.
Yeah, and I think probably the only thing that I would, add is I think we spent a little bit more time and intentionality on, okay, this is the plan. This is what we think we're going to try to, save. This is what we're going to try to invest. Like, get all that set aside. And then, we always say that like experiences are what's most important, or like what we want to spend our money on. But very rarely do we actually like go through the exercise of like, hey, how much should I commit? Like, should it be 3% of my income in a year or per month, or should it be 10% or whatever? So I feel like I've gotten a lot more intentional with you with that and the kids, and just like, all right, like I want to make sure that we spend, this percentage of our income on experiences throughout the year. And let's go ahead and kind of get that all planned out and allocate the funds to do it. And, go on with life in that regard, and try to get the best deal that we can, but make sure that we don't lose that time that can be so critical at certain ages. Like, I bring up the book Die with Zero a few times on this podcast, but it really resonated with me that like there are certain experiences, no matter what in your life, like you could be, later in life, have money to do it, but the time period of wanting to, or like enjoying that experience at sometimes they're only slated for certain ages. Like you would never go backpack Europe like you did when you were, in your 20s today. Like we would never go back to Thailand like we did without kids and do the same. Like, but we talk about that trip, and we are able to get that memory dividend that pays after going and having those experiences at certain ages. And we've adopted having a plug for Skylight calendar, but it pops up all the photos of all the things, and our kids literally sit there and have these memory dividends every day with us. And I think that's been one of the most like one of the best ROIs that we've had, because not only do we spend the money, invest in the experience and activity, but then our kids see it and they pop up and they talk about it, and then we reminisce, and then it's something that like continues to bring us together and brings a lot of joy and happiness.
Thanks for sharing, Jace. Appreciate your insight there.
All right, let's shift gears here a little bit. We get so many questions from those that are on the verge of retiring. Why don't we have more on the podcast? Why is it such a struggle for the baby boomer generation to think about talking about retirement? So I thought no better than to bring my parents on, who are asking themselves these same questions and struggling with these same topics, to have a little roundtable discussion. So, Dad, you've got to go apply for Social Security next year. That's just a reality.
For Medicare.
For Medicare. You don't have to apply for Social Security if you don't want to. You got a few years left of that. But what is it mentally that, we were talking a little bit about this today earlier, but what is it just mentally, like the shift of like, you said you've worked since you were 12. It's all you've known. Why is it so hard to like think about what it is to be not working, so to speak, or not working in traditional income earning position, or what you've been doing for your whole life?
Well, I think that's a couple things. I think number one is that, you're in a job where you share and you serve and you help people with health concerns. And that's important to me. And I still love doing that. So that's one option. You keep loving what you do. And then in the back of your mind, you're thinking, well, you're getting kind of old here. You got to eventually retire. So that's a word that, just, my wife keeps asking me about it, and we keep learning a little bit. And there's all kinds of helps out there to say, okay, I got to register for Medicare. I know they get 7 months window to be able to do that before my 65th birthday. So yeah, I know I have to. Well, yeah, I found that out today. So I'm new to this.
I was trying to keep it from you. Don't want to burst your bubble.
So yeah, you have to think. So the other thing is you have to think about those things. You have to get prepared for that. It kind of looks like to me, it's I like fun, I like fitness, and I like finances. So you have to decide how you're going to do that. And when I talk about fun, I mean, that's, you like to golf, or you like to go on trips, or you like to have these wonderful vacations and these memories. Sure, we do that. Do you want to have fitness? You are going to keep health insurance? Are you going to be healthy enough to be able to quit working and be able to like keep doing what you want to do? And then finance, you have the money to be able to do those things. And so when you put all that together, it's like, boy, you've worked so hard for it, but you want to enjoy it at the end. I understand all that. It's just getting to that point is a very difficult thing for just me. But I guess that's just
understatement.
Because for you, Mom, it's not as much, right?
I don't know. I get a lot of satisfaction from my job, but I think part of my mindset and stuff with it is because of the job that I have. I work daily with the elderly. Some not healthy, some healthy, some who have planned well, some who have not planned well. And so it's kind of, I have a different perspective, I think, because I faced every day with what that looks like. One of the things that I have noticed and talked to your dad about a lot is I have a lot of patients who they're in their, late 60s, early 70s, and they haven't worked on their relationship. And so now they're together and they haven't built any commonalities with it. And and then it causes health problems, which is why they're in my office. and so I've thought about that a lot. We haven't had, in our own families, a really good role models for that, mostly because of health issues, and not necessarily, my dad was in an accident, but I look at my mom and she's 80 and living her best life, and I want to live my best life, hopefully, when I'm 80.
So what have you guys been doing to prepare for retirement?
Oh boy.
Mentally, physically, emotionally, it sounds like there's a lot to this for you.
Yeah, I think that there's, my wife's really good about this. She's obviously there's books out there, there's podcasts she's been reading. We've started reading a book together. I think I'm on the first chapter. So
first page.
Yeah.
She's finished 3 of them.
You read the dedication?
I can't remember where the book is. I feel like,
all right, the truth comes out. Okay.
Yeah, but I
do you remember the title?
I am getting older. I realize that. So I know I need to step up my game. I realize that, there's certain things you need to apply for and register for. And I have a Social Security account. I know all about that. I know about Medicare.
Now.
Yeah. There's medications that you're going to have to choose. I mean, you hear all these commercials. And
you're choosing medications, but you don't need them.
I don't need, well, I'm just blessed at that point right now that
you're thinking you're going to need them.
Might need them. So, but
most people need medications at certain ages, maybe even throughout their whole life.
That's right. So that's why I'm working on retirement now by fitness and health and those types of things. So
we have one person in the hot seat in denial about retiring and one who's prepared.
I mean, let's be real. The conversation in the car earlier today was my dad basically told us that he's going to become a professional senior tour golfer pretty soon. And that's what he's going to retire to doing. Now, to his credit, he does shoot very well in golf. Can he go play on the senior tour? Man, I will be the biggest cheerleader. I hope he can make it happen. The only part that I question is, will he pay a coach enough money to help him get over that hump, to get on the senior tour, to be able to qualify for his PGA card, to make that his second career in life?
Why would he need to do that when he can use people's leftover balls at the driving range?
He did that today too.
Oh, enjoy that driving range. It's always fun to see where you are. I love it. Anyway, but the game is played on the course. I realize that. So.
But you got to practice to make progress.
Yeah, when you talk about the fitness, okay, we'll talk about golf. Yeah, I live in a colder climate. And it obviously is mental, as Stacey asked, of retiring. I could actually play golf more. I mean, that really is like.
That excites you, huh?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that really does excite me.
You don't have to take 3 months off of golf.
That's right. It's exciting.
But you also could solve that if you needed to with an indoor option.
Yeah, I know. And
golf simulator.
And I just like
you could watch the golf league on TV while you actually have your simulator in your house too. So you could solve that kind of.
He doesn't want a simulator because that will break his clubs, and then that costs money.
Oh man. Oh boy. So now the truth really comes out.
Yeah, I see that TGL. That's kind of cool. They got real grass to hit on, and it's a fun league, and I think it's successful, and it's fun to watch these professional golfers. Once in a while, I'll do that. I watch it every Tuesday or Monday or whenever it's on. I don't know, but
so does that mean that you're trying to figure out how to get real grass in our house?
No.
For a simulator?
No, I prefer hitting on real grass when I'm at the driving range. That's a preference?
No,
Okay.
no mats for Jeff. So we digress, but you're in a colder climate. You're trying to approach mentally, physically, financially. Financially, would you say, like, I mean, essentially what you've done for the last 30 years, 40 years has prepped you to be at the point where even considering financially walking away from work isn't an option. Because some people it's not. They do need to probably work to continue to create income, but what you've prepped for wasn't what you started last year or 5 years ago. It's what you've started 30 years ago and 40 years ago to get to this point. But now that you're to this point, the financial piece isn't what's holding you back.
No, it's not. We're fine financially, and we've planned for that. We've been disciplined for that. I mean, we have mutual funds. We have a little bit of real estate, and that's where we've invested our money in, which is very comfortable for us. And we seem to be a good point so that we could financially retire. So I think it's more of it's a mental type, I guess you would call that. When is the right time to retire? Are you prepared to do that? Are you covering all the different aspects of retirement? So we're just beginning to look at that. And
what life would look like.
Yeah, what you
in
retire
retired
to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's hard too, because, we work medical, and I could probably find things to do here and there, although it would make me nervous. I read and study a lot. Things change so much all the time, and new meds that I feel like once you're gone and you're not using that daily, that it would make me worried, to try and keep doing it. And for your dad, it's just, he's so specialized, it's not an option to just dabble in it again.
Yeah.
So it's a definite, once we decide to leave, we've left.
So let me ask this though, because now, I mean, 20 years ago, absolutely, there's very few options. Walmart greeter was still and is still popular, but there are options for people if they leave a traditional career to have some of that, part of the gig economy. Whether, today my Uber driver was in his 70s and he just told me, he's like, I just drive for a couple hours a day just so I can get up and get busy. And, I meet interesting people like you. And, I'm like, why are you here on business and taking in an Uber at 5:30 in the morning or whatever? And I'm like, why are you driving at 5:30 in the morning versus at 7:30 when you're retired? And it's for him, it's, hey, I can wake up, get something to do. Like I like my cup of coffee, listen to the news. I'm going to almost do it anyway, so might as well drive people around and have a little interesting conversation, make a little money. So we have some of these gig type economy options that maybe not fall in your traditional profession, but do you think about those at all? Of like, hey, if I really needed to, I would could go do something like that to earn income?
I don't think I've looked at stuff to necessarily earn income. I more have thought about volunteer work, more so. I don't know. I've got 4 kids with kids. There's my volunteer work. But that's where I've thought about more so than, needing to make money with anything. I've used some of the hobbies that I've had in the past and, tried to do them in a business. And what I found is that then I didn't enjoy the hobby when I had deadlines and stuff with it or was trying to mass produce. So I don't necessarily want to do that.
yeah, I think I can be very busy. I mean, just this week I helped someone. They ran a little text out and wanted some help carrying some sheetrock down to their basement. I'm like going, okay, yeah, I can do that right now. Get on the phone, call the people, go and help. I mean, I can be very busy doing some charitable work and that type of thing. I've done that all my life. I will continue to do that to help younger families, younger people, older people. Just to have some extra hands around when you need to do something. Yeah, that'll be part of our life. To make a career, like you could go be the court marshal or on golf course, the marshal, and you could get free golf by just doing that a couple times a week. So I mean, there's options there. There's just I think it's you've worked with people, you've treated people, and then all of a sudden it's like over. I think that's scary a little bit. I mean, that's like it. So your friendship, your sociality of it is like closed down a little bit. And so then you're like, okay, I need to open that up again. And maybe that's an Uber driver. Maybe that's greeter at Walmart, or maybe that's working at Walt Disney World or something. I mean, those could all fit those types of things where you're working 1 or 2 days a week and enjoying yourself. So I don't know where that fits. Do I think about it? Yes. Do I think that something like that might fit? Possibly.
Does it feel a little bit like an identity crisis to be walking away from your professions?
I think it has to be a little bit of identity. You've done it for, 38 years. And yeah, that's quite a long time to be at a profession. And so, yeah, it does feel a little bit, you know that you're getting older, you know that things are changing, you know that you've established a practice and you've established a way of doing things, and which is better for the patient and better for the people who come to treat the patients. And so in that sense, you feel a little bit of, I guess, you're very pleased by doing that. That's probably a better word.
Your legacy.
A legacy that that you've helped build. Does that for the younger generation? Does that, I don't know what the correct word is, do they kind of see that as being like, oh, we're appreciative of those type of people who have done that sacrifice? It's kind of like a military person who similar that has sacrificed all their life for our country, and we all appreciate that, and we acknowledge that by supporting our veterans and are very patriotic. So in the medical field, I don't know that it's that way.
Just becomes chopped liver.
It might be just well, yeah, they're really nice guys and they're gone. You become part of this. You turn in
identity crisis.
You turn in your badge and it's on a wall. And well, he was a good person, but we got patients to treat. We can't
reminisce on the old days.
That's right.
What it was like 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago.
I think so much of my thought processes and just what I think about and learn about day to day is so entrenched in what I do for a profession that it is. I have thought about what is it going to be like the first day that I wake up and I'm not going to clinic. What is that going to be like when I'm not thinking about, okay, my inbox, I got to figure out those labs. I've got to call that patient. What is that going to feel like? And
tell you
what am I going to think about?
We could run the urgent. You can run the urgent care at my house.
I think when you're retired, the hurry and the worry will definitely be gone, for the most part. And I mean, we live in a neighborhood where there's a lot of retired couples, and
we're the youngsters.
It snows, and my driveway is always the first one plowed, and I'm ready to go to work, and nobody else has woken up for 2 hours. So I'm like, it's kind of interesting to kind of see how they live their lives, and they enjoy themselves. They wake up when they want to, and they clean their driveway when they want to, and then they go out for a drive and a walk, and they enjoy themselves. So it's not that I don't see models, and I mean, my neighbors are wonderful people that have valued work and have retired, and I can see what their life's a little bit like. And
for the most part, they're all healthy.
Yeah.
Which makes a big difference.
It makes a huge difference. It makes a huge, huge difference. Yeah. Yeah.
Is there any fear, whether or not it's rational, financially, like, you've prepared for this, but is there any fear that you're going to wake up and be like, what if we run out? Even though you probably wouldn't, but what if we did? How do you get over that hurdle? Because you've been saving for so long. How do you switch to just now we only spend?
Yeah, that is a very, very
tugging on the heartstrings, huh?
No, that's very real situation because of the way we grew up. I mean, we grew up with that type of mentality. I mean, you work, you use up stuff, you save, you do all that you can to make something work out and do it yourself. And I mean, that's the way we grew up. And so I still mow my lawn. I still change some oil. I mean, I still carry sheetrocks for people. I mean, I'm just, I do those things. I like doing those things. So
that normally you would pay other people to do.
Which is fine too. And we will in the future, because we know that we can't do those things. And we have to have people that are trained to pay them. So you prepare for that. You prepare and you've worked hard, and you need to eventually enjoy that retirement and say, well, I've done my best. I've worked very hard, and this is what we have to live. And hopefully there'll be we always think that for our children, there'll be some excess when we're finished, but
I don't think that. I read the book Die with Zero.
we want nothing. We want nothing.
And I want the memories. I want the memories. It's important to me, to set aside money to pull my family together, to bring everybody together, to even just not maybe necessarily everybody at one time, but here and there together, so that we have pictures on the skylight.
You have lots.
How, I mean, I look at this from a different viewpoint, because I grew up in your house and was raised, but maybe our listeners who, have only heard you on the show once or me talk about you, but how over the last, I don't know, 5 years, 10 years, have you been able to loosen up the wallet a little bit? Because that's a transition that I feel like a lot of people have a hard time. Or Dad, do you still feel like you're tight?
Yeah, who are you asking this question to?
Oh, I think
What are you talking about?
I think your jaw drops and you just open up the wallet, because the wife is showing you how to do it.
I don't think I'm unrealistic.
No, I think she just told you why. It's family and memories, and I'm all in that. It's fun.
And all of our children have said they don't want any money.
Yeah. And no, she's wise on that.
But you still get a little heartburn, like on the cruise that we went on, that we all talk about. We all went on, big deal. But you still, like, the amount that you spent, like, it still is like ringing in your head a little bit.
Oh yeah, it does. Yeah, there's no doubt, but you cannot say anything about it.
Sorry.
Not on a podcast.
Because that would not be, that would defeat the purpose. Even though you're having those feelings, they'll pass.
But how are you getting to that point where those feelings do pass a little bit, though? Is it being able to, like, reminisce in the memories and, like, hey, that's money that I allocated for that? Or do you think it's just in your nature, no matter what, like, it's so hard to let go of, like, spending a little bit and making that switch?
Just go back to work. I mean, that's why I think. I mean, just go back to work.
How are you able to pull the trigger and finally buy a Tesla?
Your brother pushed the buttons on the computer.
So somebody had to force it, but you could have returned it, but you didn't.
Yeah, it's a fun car to drive.
So the advice is basically get a child to press buttons for you.
That's right. Oh yeah,
the buttons that you didn't want them to press as 5-year-olds and 10-year-olds, you now want them to press as adults to help you loosen a little bit, spread the wings and fly.
It's just like when you have children and you have their families, and you're just what Diane was speaking about, and you have them. You're on a vacation, or you're making a memory of some kind. Those, and you're just wondering, like, gee, is everybody having fun? And you kind of look at everybody, and of course they're having fun. They're enjoying themselves, and we're
they're not paying for it, baby.
That's right. Yeah, they're not. So they're enjoying themselves.
In the words of the granddaughter, isn't this great? It's all free.
Yeah, it's all free. Everything on the cruise, you could just eat as much as you want. It's all for free. So, but
hey, at least you kind of know what the top end's going to be if you do it that way, and everything does become free because you already prepaid for it.
So that's one of the things that, in thinking about doing some of these things, is and the cruise thing, and when we've talked about another, vacation like that, we've talked about all inclusive, so that you do pay for it all at once, and it just doesn't keep coming out of the wallet. It already went, and I think.
It might have a zero at the beginning, but at least you're okay with it because it's not several zeros throughout multiple months and at the end. And
yeah, I think that's what I've figured out. That's his risk tolerance, is spend it all up front.
But, once you have one of those experiences and you get together with family and friends and you want to, it happens so quickly and it's so much fun and you have great memories and you live through that and talk about it and have fun. And
What is this live through?
You want another, well, no, not, maybe that's the wrong word, that you have the opportunity to go through it together and have memories. You want to do it again, which is, that's the thing that, like, okay, wow, we did that now. How many times are we going to do this, when we retire? So that question has come up to my mind.
Yeah. It's like, how many of these times do I have left?
Yeah, that also comes into mind.
How many Disney World trips do I have left?
Well, there and going to Canada or going somewhere else in the world.
Yeah, we got to get you to some other countries. Get you a little uncomfortable.
Arkansas. I've never been to Arkansas. I need to go to Arkansas.
That's a state.
Yeah, it's a state.
It's not very far away. Do you want to go tomorrow? We do have direct plane flights there. It's close.
I think one of the things that's made it easier for him a little bit is that, we have grandkids that are getting old enough to remember these things, and they will say things. Remember that. Remember when we did that? And one granddaughter said, I just love Florida. And I says, why do you love Florida? And she says, well, I think because every time I've gone, you've been there.
Mm-hmm.
And, I think that makes it easier to open up that wallet. Yes?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, those are memories that we, here we are. And my parents, when they turned 80, it was just from my perspective, was just a different life experience, because my parents, it was just different for them, and they didn't travel anymore after 80. So that
they didn't travel before then. I've always thought about how your dad always wanted to go to Memphis and didn't. And I wish we would have just taken him when we went with Jace, when Jace was 12. I wish we would have just got him.
My parents chose to use a camper and trailer and go to national parks and those types of things and fishing trips. And
no, but I mean when they were older.
Yeah, when they were older.
Yeah.
Tactically, with finance, is there anything you've done in the last few years to kind of set up preparations for, when that day may come that you do walk?
Yeah, this is it's fun having a son that knows finances really well, because I just ask him. So
then he gets mad when you don't do what he tells you to do.
It's almost like if I take him into the medical world, he starts going on EFTs and all these other things, HSAs, and you learn all this vernacular in the financial world. And so then when I start saying things in the medical world, he's like, what? I go, yeah, see, sometimes that's what it feels like to me when you're explaining that to me. You got to slow down a little bit. And
you're the one that taught me.
Yeah.
Did you forget already?
I taught you one of the greatest inventions of all time, which is the time value of money.
Yep.
And that is, I think all my children understand that, which is one of the greatest inventions of all time.
Yeah. And I think tactically what we've done a little bit is to try to get you in a better spot as it relates to what your RMDs may look like, balancing a little bit more with where taxes are today and projecting stuff out a little bit, because, RMDs, especially for people that put away a lot in the, 401k, traditional 401k, IRA, it becomes a real thing when you start running that calculator. Once you get to that 70, 72 mark, and you start running things out, and sometimes the math can be astronomical. So we started looking at some of that, probably 5-6 years ago, what we could do to get a little bit better balance for you, such that the RMDs aren't going to crush you, to a point where you're paying more in taxes than you maybe were even making back in the years that you were putting that away and everything else. So it's been kind of an interesting exercise to actually see that through a little bit and see where it's come. And I know it's sometimes been painful to pay a little tax bill here and there, but now that the balance that you've got,
now it's tax tax time again.
And
Yeah,
the timing worked out a little bit with the market too, I will say. But
yeah, it is.
Paid for that Tesla a few times over.
It is. Yeah, we changed some of those things and very balanced and feel better about that. But it is painful to pay some of those taxes, but you're eventually going to have to pay
better than
more
having
taxes,
a griping
taxes.
80-year-old yelling at me, right?
Yeah, yeah, you do.
Why didn't you tell me this earlier in life?
Yeah, that's right. So
Well, we didn't have the options that there are now.
Yeah.
It was only straight 401ks, IRAs. There wasn't any Roth opportunities
Till the
to be
90s,
had.
late
Yeah.
90s, yeah.
And so a lot of the things were already in and set there. But so it's different. Now with our work, we both just only have Roth.
oh no,
Yours is a Roth.
yeah, and I still contribute to the 401k so I can get the match. So
But that's the Roth. It's a Roth 401k. Yeah, it is.
It's traditional, huh? We're in a disagreement on this one.
Mine is a Roth 401k.
yeah, mine's both. So
All right. So as you go through this period of emotionally, physically, financially, you feel like you're prepared, but is there anything that you're going to do, any books that you're going to read or things that you have on the list to kind of take advantage of to try to prepare?
yeah, we have some books,
And Jeff's going to find them.
He's going to find the titles dusted under the couch.
So I've looked at a lot of them. And there's one, and I've learned this again. I don't mean to beat a dead horse, but I've learned it from work too, is that, navigating Medicare is huge. And so there's one, it's a, not the most fun book to read or to listen to, but it has great information about those kinds of things and how to, maybe when you're thinking finances, how to structure it, whether it be, a monthly pay, like you get a paycheck, or whether it is to allocate more money on the first 10 years after you retire because you're going to plan some bigger ventures, things like that. And then there's another one that they talk about that as well, but they also talk about, retiring to something, and that life shouldn't be over when you retire. And a lot of people, I think it does. You hear about people all the time that they pass away soon after they retire.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's just because there weren't maybe any plans in place. So, and I think we get along fine. Fine, that's an awful word to misuse. But
fine partner here.
But what I mean by that is we're not going to kill each other living in the same house, not having places to go, which I think.
Well, we know where Dad goes. It's GOLF.
Yeah, but
or the track.
Yeah,
but you both too physically are still doing those kinds. Races and those kinds of things, running half marathons or whatever, which helps that too. I think. You dedicate time and effort into those things, and then you gotta go chase the grandkids, and they might be faster.
They are faster, I will say that, but you don't want to make a fool out of yourself completely and have to have them pick you up. So you want to at least stay on your own 2 feet with them.
Diane, what was the name of that book that was not fun to read, but is very insightful?
Oh, The 5 Years Before You Retire.
Yes, that's it. 5 years before you retire.
Spell.
We're definitely in that.
Is there anything that you look back on that you really wish you would have learned or solidified from understanding earlier, or a habit that you wish you would have created in life earlier?
I think Jeff's had the same habit since he was 20, probably.
Actually, no, that's not true. He was a bit different when we got married.
He doesn't look any different.
He does not look much different. No, that is true.
It's only like 4 less hair strands.
There's a 1 or 2 gray things once in a while there too. I think I think, when you get into your profession and you have that responsibility, and then you have kids, and you feel the responsibility for keeping food on the table. And then, it's important to us to provide finances to be able to do extracurricular activities. That was really important. And when you start putting that, you change a little bit. You can't be, as you talked about your trip in Thailand, how different that was, before you had kids. Well, I think that was us too. We were a lot more I don't know. I think he was more easygoing and I was not. And now I'm more easygoing and he is not.
Uptight, huh? Uptight.
No, I don't think I'm uptight.
We just got to get you on a different golf course every day, huh?
Yeah, there you go.
You got to go see the green. Got to read the green. Got to touch the grass, smell the grass, eat the grass.
Yeah, that's a great game, and it's very difficult. And luckily, I have the opportunity to play it. And how many more years am I going to be able to play that?
I think you're going to play till you die, personally.
So
it's the family joke.
Yeah, so
Dad's going to die on a golf course when he's 90 something.
That might happen.
How will you finally know it's time?
I think I do secretly have a tentative date, but I don't share that with anybody. But I do not share that
after this table.
Do not share that with anybody.
When have you had this secret tentative date?
Every time I do an annual financial review, I have a date, and I keep that
date changes.
No, the date has not changed.
So every time you've done a financial review, you obviously started this date sometime. It hasn't changed. When did the date start? 5 years ago? 10 years ago?
Oh, I have to go back and look. I can't remember. But it's been a while. Yeah, it's down on every year on the financial sheet. Yes.
Oh my goodness, look at this. What are we doing?
I don't have a date.
Tentative date, I said.
I don't have a tentative date. I don't know.
You told me you were going to retire in 4 years, 5 years. What did you say? 4 years.
No, we need her before then.
I don't know.
If you're working, why should I be doing anything else?
Will you guys retire at the same time, you think?
Oh, yeah.
I think so. I think.
Yeah, I
think that will
yeah,
be
we're not going to play that game. No, that would be.
What game is that?
Well, it'd just be like, oh, I'm retired. Like, hurry up. You're going to get home. No, we're not going to. We're going to retire. We're going to plan something.
You're already doing that. Are you kidding me?
I know. I
call me up like, oh, mom's not home yet. Mom's not home yet. I'm like, yeah, she's working at 5. You got up at 2.
And I have to keep reminding me I had to extend a couple of hours on the days to maintain 0.8. And both him and your sister, they're like, where are you? And I'm like, remember, I see patients till 6.
Yep.
So they do that.
Any retirement party or like big retirement gift or anything you'd buy or think or do, celebrate?
I think we're going to turn the Tesla on like the light feature. Light feature.
Celebration. The celebration feature.
We're actually going to drive the Tesla maybe on the...
For once.
You got 10,000 miles on that Tesla.
In like 5 years.
2.5.
So you drive it more than around the neighborhood.
I see
Canada.
I see a lot of that was it was fun. I see a lot of
you gonna buy like a special golf club or a new set of golf clubs or anything to celebrate? Anything you're thinking of? You got this date now that we didn't know about.
I had a friend that just retired and he went and got fitted for some golf clubs. I thought that was wonderful for him. I've certainly done that before. Maybe do it again. That would be happy. Retirement.
You already said you needed a set here.
Yeah, in Texas. I do need to haul them through the airport, but just leave a set in Texas and leave a set in Washington.
Man, first world problem. Just leave a set in Texas for a few times and come down and play. Miz, I've been telling me that you're going to come and spend all winter and like hang out and like be golfing every day for 3-4 months.
Yeah, I do. I do think that we talked about, leaving the winter a little bit and spending a month here or a month there somewhere. It depends on where all of our children end up, and their wives and families. But certainly that's, we've talked about that. So that's one of the bucket list things that we certainly want to do. And our bucket list, we've talked about a few of those things.
Still working on him to get him to travel more. He's not thinking that sounds so great.
But we have traveled a little bit, and we've enjoyed it. And
I think you've liked it more than you thought you would.
yes.
Yeah, the history. You go play golf in another country or another area that you don't. I mean, any courses you want to go play?
One on every continent, so he's got a couple more to get.
Well, I don't know what you're going to do about Antarctica, but
no, I
you
certainly
can drive a ball off the ice.
Yeah,
hit a
It'll have
polar
to be
bear maybe.
covered.
I get that South America. I haven't quite gotten South America, so
Well, I'll take you to Colombia. Mom, what about you? Any like big purchase, any big trip? Like where's on the bucket list to celebrate retiring?
I don't. There's nothing I want to buy, really.
Just a flight to Italy.
No, we're gonna do that before then, I think. I don't know. I always say we're gonna have a big family party, and then your dad's like, "It's not their retirement; it's ours."
yeah. So I think some of my friends, they have big parties. Some of them just retire and.
Well, if y'all don't want to buy gifts for yourself, I'll buy a gift in honor of you retiring. Just need to figure out what it looks like. I buy one, you buy one. I buy one for me, buy one for you. We celebrate together.
That's something to think about. I haven't really gone that far as to plan that type of thing, but I can see
the date, but don't know how to celebrate the date.
That's right.
Oh man, we got some work to
plan
do.
the celebration. Yeah, that's something to look forward to.
I think we should be the ones celebrating them. The last thing your dad wants to do the day he stops working is pay for something that he's not going to be able to refill the bucket with.
No, not really. I mean,
So that's a good segue to my next question and to wrap up here. As you think through emotionally, okay, that income is kind of eliminated. Now you're living off of your nest egg, call it. How do you think about spending that down? Do you think about it in terms of like, hey, these years are probably healthier years that I want to go and spend more of it and do more, call it travel or activities. And then this decade, call maybe the rest of your 60s, part of your 70s. Hey, I know I'm probably going to do a little less of that. So I'll probably spend a little less, but maybe my healthcare goes up, or 80s, same thing. It kind of gets less and less, and a little bit balance changes. Like, how do you think about kind of the spend down of the nest egg?
Well, we just went down and said, how much does it really cost us to just live in this house every month? And so we did kind of go through that little thing, and it's not that much once we retire.
You get utilities, property taxes, whatever.
Yeah, that's right. Utilities, property taxes, groceries. What does it cost you to actually just live in the house? So utilities and that type of thing. So we did go over that, and
I've thought about it. I mentioned that in reading some of these books, and they talk about allocating buckets for different years for that. I think your dad's always said, well, we're just going to live on the interest. That's all we're going to take out, and just leave the bulk of the everything else there.
Yeah, I've never done it before. I don't know how that looks. I don't interview anybody to talk about those things. But yeah, it is a question.
Maybe you should start.
Yeah, you do. Yeah. Yeah, you do need to say, what are we going to...
Jeff, the Answer Man podcast, what do you do about retiring, drawing down on your portfolio? Be good questions for you.
Yeah, you certainly want to live with the same lifestyle you're living now. I mean, I don't think that would change for us. I mean,
would you upgrade your wardrobe a little bit, maybe, or no?
No.
I'm not into clothes.
He's not. But I've
20 years old, like we can't replace a shirt yet.
He doesn't need to. You and Ty give him all of your leftover clothes, and he's happy to receive them all. I see him every time I see him.
What goes around comes around. I guess I was taking his shoes when I was like 12 or 13 too, and his coat.
That's funny.
Mom, what about you?
What about me? What?
Like any upgrade in wardrobe or changing wardrobe or any of those kinds of things that...
No, I've talked to your dad about this. I want to, when my, and I don't know, my grandmother, it was really important to her to pass a piece of jewelry down to all the grandchildren. But she kind of bought it all after my grandpa died, and they didn't have there wasn't any meaning other than she bought them and wanted us to have them, and she put names on them. And I would like to be able to have, I almost have a ring for all my daughters and daughter-in-laws for them, and then just earrings or necklaces that have special stories to pass down to my grandkids. And your dad can pass the golf balls, I guess.
That he collects from the course from the guy that left them over.
Or you can give him yours because you always lose so many on the course.
Throwing me under the bus. What kind of? I mean,
I'm just saying, I see a new box of golf balls show up
The
every
kid-
quarter.
the kids are playing now, so like they lose a lot too. It's not just me. I hit the ball pretty straight nowadays. I'm not senior torn anytime soon, but you know,
You can hit a drive out there.
I got some years. Any last piece of advice for those that are 60 plus or approaching that, thinking about retirement?
I think and I need to do this, is just every week you need to discuss retirement. And we started doing that, and then we got out of the habit of doing that. So we'll certainly commit to get back on the retirement planning and read the books and articles that we need to, so that we're on track. I mean, you have to do some research. You certainly can't just like retire and then not be prepared. You just don't want to do that. So be prepared is one of the things that we certainly will do. And that, emotionally, it's always working on that. Always working on what are you going to replace it with once you retire. We talked about that. Service, fun, fitness, and those types of things. So, and health and travel. And so, yeah, all those things are in our heads, and we're putting them on paper. We're talking about those, but we need to up our game.
I think we need a different word for retirement, and maybe that would help. I think there's maybe sometimes a negative connotation to it for some people like us that are like, no, we just work. That's what we do.
Enjoy retirement.
But I also think, yeah, we talk about retiring or planning for retirement now, but really it's not, when you're thinking about retiring, it's not just a finance thing, and it doesn't, you need to work on fitness and everything when you're younger so that you have the health to enjoy it. I guess I've seen that. That's the most I've seen, and just went to a conference and they talked about that over and over and over again, that, you need to tell your patients when they're 20s and 30s that, okay, what you do today, make sure that your 60 and 70-year-old self will be happy with, of, how you've treated your body and what you've done to be healthy. And so I think that's just as important as finance. And I don't know that we thought of it like that back then. We've always been active, but I don't think we thought about, well, we want to be that so that our bodies stay great for, to be able to do the things that we want to when we have more time to do them.
Yeah, I mean, outside of dominating cancer twice, y'all, I mean, do you feel 50? Do you feel a decade younger?
Oh, yeah.
Do I?
Yeah.
The cancer and the chemo thing, that, my body feels that. It feels, before I had all of that, I had a lot more stamina, and I could push through things. Even if I was tired, I'd be like, okay, I'm still going to get this done. And now when I'm tired, my body, and it's not like I'm tired and need sleep. It's like my body's just done.
Just worn out for the day.
It's just done. It's just like, okay, you're not moving. And so I do feel that. I definitely feel that.
And the other thing that I think about retirement is nutrition. I mean, I've started thinking more about nutrition. Isn't that interesting?
Me too.
Yeah.
I live with one.
Yeah.
But I will say, I mean, I have this little knee issue, and tore my meniscus and have not wanted to do surgery. And like, I mean, that's kind of been a little wake up call for me at 36 years old. Like, all right, I got to start slamming, more vegetables down, like thinking through this a little bit better, and I've had some people, that I work with even younger than me that, have had some real crazy scares, health wise, in their early 30s with heart problems and things like that. And it's scary, like you're like, man, this guy's like my age. It's not like we're in our 50s, and he is fit and healthy, but it comes down to like some of those diet things are, a lot more important than I thought of when I was in 20s.
Yeah. So, you take a little bit more interest in that and find out ways and research. And of course, Stacey's a qualified nutritionist, and so a dietitian. Anyway, so I find myself, boy, you need to eat healthier and make those choices. And even when you're around your grandchildren, I mean, they choose wisely, and so their mothers make them choose, and fruits and vegetables, and so you have to follow suit by making sure that you're doing the same. And
you're making it sound like we have junk food all over.
No, we don't. We don't. We do eat.
I've always cooked, and we haven't
We do
really
eat very well.
we haven't really eaten a lot of processed foods ever.
No, and we love those vegetables and fruits and good foods, and
you just have to back off on the cookies.
Yeah, cookies are definitely my weakness.
Do you feel like you're 10 years younger, 20 years younger, 15 years younger?
I feel really good. I mean, I really do. We'll
see if you can dunk on Saturday, huh?
Probably can't dunk anymore, but I can still run pretty well. And
yeah, you went to compete in the Huntsman games and whatnot, but
so you just still walk, and I enjoy walking, playing golf, and not riding. So how long is that going to happen? I don't know, but as long as I can walk the course, I enjoy that. So
yeah. Anything that you wish you would have started earlier or thought through earlier, financially or emotionally, or anything as it relates to, getting to this stage in life?
I think we just woke up and went, holy crap, here we are.
You're probably in the same boat as a lot of people, especially all these that have been writing in on this subject.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of hardworking people out there our age, and they've been through generational changes and different work environments and different philosophies in the United States of America, and so they've gotten used to even the digital. We're coming from like 8-track tapes to cassette tapes to CDs to music that's just digitals to our phones. I mean, we've come through typewriters, and I remember my first computer I typed a paper in college on. I mean, we've just seen so much.
The world has gotten more accessible, I think, for us, our generation, that wasn't.
Yeah, you never grew up traveling the world probably like as accessible now. Like it wasn't like, oh, in retirement, I'll go travel to Asia, or I'll go travel to Europe, or I'll go down and golf in Africa, or.
We were talking about that today in the airports. I'm like, holy cow, there's a lot of people in these airports, flying down here, just lots of people. And you just didn't ever.
Yeah. $250, $300, $350 get you a ticket to almost anywhere in the country right now.
Yeah.
From one place to another. And like, that just was not.
No.
That's our society. So
no, I remember paying $600, and this was 1989. When my dad had his accident. Yeah. 1989, we paid $600 a ticket to fly from Spokane to Utah for my parents' 25th wedding anniversary. And we did it because, that was a big deal. And I'm so glad we did, because my dad had his accident the next week. But you think about how much $600 was then.
Yeah, it'd be several thousand today just to go. What is a 10-hour drive, 1.5, 2-hour flight?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Well, awesome. Appreciate you all sharing and coming on and giving a little update and diving in the deep in this subject. Hopefully we get some more kind of baby boomer age on the podcast, share their stories and kind of dive in. It's been kind of interesting how many people have written in about just the challenge and the mindset shifts that, are occurring with a massive chunk of our population, and the realities of moving on to Medicare and thinking through Social Security and retiring emotionally, financially, physically, etc. So once again, it's my parents, Jeff and Donann. Stace, that's a wrap. Thanks for coming on the show today.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Millionaires Unveiled podcast with Jace Mattinson. For more stories, investment opportunities, and information, check out our website, millionairesunveiled.com. See you next time when you'll hear from another everyday millionaire.